One more time for the one more time. It's going to be another banger coming up. CJ versus Burning Core. We're going to have a lot of hopium on this desk, so we're going to try and hold that one down a little bit. But getting into these two teams, you know, they did play against each other in day two. Burning Core made it look pretty one-sided, to be fair. Do we feel like this is going to be kind of a similar situation this time around? Oh, you can take it away.
I mean, depends on how Yuhi and Fujimoto are able to handle this lane, right? Because yeah, you're right. Hybrid, when they found their success, has been the rolling point for this team. They really get them going, especially on the Aphelios, which obviously do have a negative win rate on. But the one game they won, he looked really, really good, and the games they didn't, he looked almost really good. So it's whether Nema and Hybrid are able to really find access in this lane. That's what I'm going to be looking towards. And I think whilst we know what's going to be coming towards bot side for AD carries wise, I want to see how they position their support in draft, how they can potentially play for that lane.
Yeah, draft is definitely a key part in the first game as well. It felt like CGA kind of drafted very early game, weren't able to really make the plays, whereas Burning Core able to sit back on their late game comp and basically just win the game out slowly but surely. Talking about draft though, you talked about Hybrid, obviously a big part of CGA. We can kind of flip the script and say Burning Core, well, Ray Farkey on the top side, also going to be a big factor.
Yeah, and this is what I love about this matchup. Our match of the week, by the way, is because both of these teams have been doing some pretty good stuff on the top half of the table, but their strengths are in very, very different places. Hybrid has been, for my money, the best AD carry in the LJL. I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with that, but the top side, like you were talking about from Burning Core, Ray Farkey, Flawless, and Dice in the mid lane, have looked so dominant for a new group of players coming together. Obviously, Ray Farkey was on the roster before, and then Flawless and Dice coming over from, I think it was Genji Challengers in Korea, but they have looked honestly unstoppable at points.
Have had a really good showing, and I guess it's kind of that old question of, do the solo laners beat the duo bot lane? How are you feeling about this one, Ark? Do you feel like CJ are kind of at a disadvantage because Burning Core is so strong in those two lanes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we'll get to see in game, but the big thing is that I think Ray Farkey's probably able to play more, I mean, through Flawless, right? It depends on how Flawless decides to move, but these laners, these solo laners are so dominant that to me, I'm thinking, well, who's going to bleed more? In my eyes, Nat probably not able to hold off his bot lane as much as Yuhi and Fujimoto are able to hold off Hybrid. That's where my mind leans, but again, it kind of ends up in draft because Ray Farkey's been playing Darius, Jace, less so, and then a little bit of Jax. And any of the more meta picks that they've decided to opt into hasn't looked so good on. I mean, there are points here for Crest Gaming to go, okay, well, maybe we can ban a couple of these out in first rotation, if anything. Because remember, I mean, depends on what side they're on. But if Burning Core on red side, I think their life becomes a lot more difficult.
And you kind of talked about the junglers a little bit as well. Flawless, I guess, is one that we have to talk about. Has got a little bit of a weird champion pool as well.
Yeah.
Kassin as well is, well, you said it before we went, kind of hot or cold, depending on the day. We'll see which one comes out. Do you feel like this matchup is going to be relatively even, or do you feel like it is very dependent on Kassin's performance?
Well, so I would just say that Kassin is not hot and cold depending on the day. He's hot or cold depending on the point in the game. I've seen this guy have like amazing 10 minutes and then just run it for the rest of the game. I've seen him have poor early games and then just turn it on in the team fights. Probably one of the flippiest players in the LGL. But when it's heads, it looks absolutely amazing. And one of the issues that I'd have with Flawless's champion pool, stuff like the Karthus, like the Diana, is it's not got a lot of power in that sort of pre-6 mark, and then Karthus obviously takes even more time than that to scale. When Kassin is playing these champions like the Volibear, which he's undefeated on, by the way, like the Jin Zhao, like the Jarvan, you can get aggressive. You can start making Flawless's life pretty horrible.
We'll see if he is able to do that. I want to say quickly, Burning Core can take second place today. If they pick up the win here, they are second, uncontested. That is not a statement I feel like anyone would have predicted from last season, you know? And I know...
That's the first time anyone on the LJL has uttered that sentence ever.
Yeah, it is. And we're also not even in day one, so this is legitimately a play for Burning Core. Whereas CJ, well, we kind of described them a little bit earlier as kind of just like that raid boss. You know, you have to beat this boss to get into the higher standings. Do you feel like this is again a good test of Burning Core? Because people have said they've not really had that big test yet, except for those big teams that they haven't been able to beat.
I think it's hard because you're right. Yeah, it should be, specifically because Crest Gaming is so catered towards this early game, right? And that's where Burning Core, I mean, Middlecourt's already said it. Flawless doesn't want to play towards that time period. He's like, he's gonna get his margarita and he's gonna chill on the beach for 10 minutes, and then hopefully by the time he gets in there, is everything's even playing fields. You know, like no big leads have been found. So I would like to see some adaptation here. Maybe Flawless has got something a little bit more pocket pick, you know, decided to lean towards. I want to see maybe a Volibear 2. I mean, he's played it once already.
Yeah, Volibear 2.
Maybe he brings it out again.
Is Volibear 2 just Udyr? Is that what you're trying to say here? I know Middlecourt's on the best.
Well, it is a better Udyr. I mean,
I mean, the matchup is horrible for Udyr. Like, genuinely, like if you see
this coming.
If you're playing Udyr and you see a Volibear, like, oh, what are you saying, my dude? Really? Not only are you talking smack about my boy CGA, you're talking smack about my main man Udyr. This is. I'm telling you, man, this caster pairing isn't going to work out long term. I want a new one.
I'm CGA biased. I want them to win. I want
Sengoku
to have the best. Yes, because if Burning Core win, they are definitely the second best team, and that puts Sengoku in a bad spot. So I'm playing big brain here. Burning Core lose today, and then Sengoku can have the miracle run to take first place at the end of the split.
You guys are both on some bad takes today. You know, before we got onto this, they said that neither of them have watched Avatar. Now they're both telling me they think CJ is going to win. It's definitely Burning Core in this game. I don't know what you're going to say next, and it's going to be a bad take. But either way, I don't know if we've all been to the beach today recently, or if we've just been like feeling some sunshine outside. It's cloudy where I live, so it definitely can't be the case. But you're talking about chilling on the beach with margaritas. I feel like we need to bring back the seagulls once again, because that's what CJ needs to do. They need to be aggressive. They need to swoop in and try and pick up the win. So we're going to see how they do this. Champion Select is on the way. I'll leave you two to take it home.
Seagulls, man.
Oh man,
seagulls coming.
What is he going on about seagulls? I don't.
Seagulls are
all a bit weird. All a bit weird. Well, we're here in draft now, everybody. With the superior team on the red side, obviously CGA there, but of course Burning Core coming in as pretty heavy favorites. Already throwing some bans kind of everywhere here with the Syndra, the Xin Zhao, and the Jinx. CGA a bit more targeted on Flawless though, with the Karthus and Diana taken off the table.
Yeah, I mean, you brought them up immediately. These are really good responses to Flawless, because I think they're comforts for him as well, because even if we are talking about how maybe they don't have as much early game agency, if he has a lot of knowledge on how to navigate early game through these champions and minimize his bleeding, getting him off these can be really important to finding early success. Now, because of this Jinx ban from Burning Core and no response from CGA to ban the Zeri, obviously with these double bans towards jungle, the Zeri does get picked up here in first place, and I think it's even after nerfs, guys, this champion's still pretty good. Now, the reason why CGA decided to not ban it is because they have the Aphelios, and I mean, Hybrid has looked so comfortable on this champion this split so far. Relatively good performance, even in their losing games, so they're definitely happy to pick that up.
Oak, I've seen something that's made me smile. The Graves for Kassin. If you don't know about this pick, there's some clips on Twitter. Go watch them. Quadra kill at 5 minutes. I can't remember who it was against. I think it was against Rascal Jester or something. But anyway, looked amazing. Goes for a bit more of a bruiser build on this pick and pumps out so much damage. Can be flexing the top side, but I don't want to see that. Flawless, though, responding with the Hecarim and the Rise picked up for Dice.
Yeah, the Hecarim's a decent response, more early game orientated, which is almost something we were looking towards for Flawless. Definitely has its place right now, especially with the tank build. So much access after level 6 for potential ganks as well. And, you know, you look at Kaito's pool and we're seeing the Zoe hovered here. They're trying to lock this in early because once that Syndra's gone and the LeBlanc's gone, Kaito's feeling very restricted. So an early Zoe now, and this means we kind of see this comp forming, because if you lock this in alongside the Graves, it means that some frontline is definitely needed. So Burning Core very likely going to chuck in some bans towards the support position. I'm probably seeing a Leona taken away, or maybe something even more pick orientated to slow down the potential pick options from CGA. In return, though, was going to mention it. Yumi has been banned against Fujimoto. quite a fair bit this split so far. And also look at the comp that it can serve into. Yuumi, Zeri is such a fantastic combination, as well as Yuumi being able to detach and work on Hecarim too. Multiple champions for this champion to play through. So they ban it away. We got there eventually.
It makes a lot of sense though, right? Because it just enables a carry so well. That's one of the key things about this champion. Akali taken off the table. We did see Nap pull that out in the previous game. Looked pretty good on it. And the Braum is a bit of a weird one for me personally, because it does leave that Tahm Kench still available, which we know that Fujimoto loves playing.
It's a really heavy disengaged champion, so maybe we're seeing what kind of where CGA want to draft it into, you know, that maybe they're looking towards this Ornn as a potential pickup for Nap alongside, and well, I mean, the Nautilus works just as well. Gonna leave that counter pick towards topside, as well as leave the flex open for this Graves. So we talked about Graves jungle. It could still be a Graves top here. They like the matchup, but decide to opt into a more engagey style jungler here.
Yeah, so much pick potential with that Nautilus to Phalios combo, the Gravitum, the hooks, the depth charge as well. And if your name is Dice, if your name is Yuhi, get hit by one of those CCs and you get chained into a couple more. But Fujimoto is going to be able to bail them out with that Tahm Kench.
I mean, you mentioned it. We saw it coming, especially, I mean, you wouldn't see a Thresh here at this point just because of how difficult it is to engage. But finally, Ray Fucky on the Darius. This will be his 4th game of the split. They've looked, I want to say, pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good pick for them. Ray Farkey has managed to make this champion work in a meta where others wouldn't conceive it. And I think once we get into laning phase, I'd love to talk about how he manages to find these in his lane. Immediate response. I really like this adaptation. Nap deciding I'm against a bully lane. I'm going to see if I can farm some space myself. And the best thing is that this pick is fantastic to punish Darius overextensions. Whether he can or he can't win these 1v1s, as soon as Ray Farkey commits to a fight, Nap can, if Kassin's relatively close, Nap can commit to a long CC chain to help set up Kassin for some potential punish points on this top side.
I just want to see that. Like, I don't know, man. I am not a big Darius enjoyer, so seeing that champion CC'd and taken down into oblivion with no hope of response, it makes me feel good, Oak. It makes me feel good.
I have an admission of guilt here, guys. I used to play a lot of Darius. So,
wow. Oh, I am learning so much about you today,
I mean,
Oak,
did you see my masteries on Twitter?
I didn't actually. I don't want to check them. Oh, there was there a load of Yasuo and Zed and stuff in there like that? Yeah, no. You're cancelled, buddy. But let's talk a little bit more about these compositions. What do you think that Burning Core want to be playing towards? And how do you think the CGA are going to respond?
Okay, so this depends on how Flawless is able to navigate first clear, as well as, you know, when you look at these laners, we're actually seeing really very limited pick situations other than the Darius through Ray Farkey, right? So I feel like Flawless's pathing is going to be pretty linear. Maybe they're able to find an angle towards his bot side depending on wave shove. Zeri has an issue where she does struggle to wave clear backline creeps unless she uses her E to get that AoE or find certain angles, which means that she can present herself in a very tricky spot. So Flawless may have to opt into doing a clear that enables Yuhi to remain relatively safe within waypoints, and that means that Ray Farkey could be left alone on the island. And I mean, Kassin really, in return, you know, on the opposite side of this matchup, he's probably just looking to farm. Graves ganks, I mean, especially once level 6 is found, they can find easy kill points. It's a different game, but in the early game, I'm assuming he just wants to farm out, which means suddenly I think these junglers are a little bit on the reverse sides of what we were pining them towards.
Don't you just love that, Oak, when narratives are completely unfulfilled? But we're going to get into game now. Bernica on the blue side, CGA on the red, in our LJL match of the week, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else. Let's not forget about that. Will we see Flawless go for these early plays? Will we see Kassin just farm for 25 minutes? Find out now.
He's gone for Fleet, though, so he's got some early game access. It's going to be so healthy after these clears, and to be honest, I haven't seen a Hecarim Graves matchup in a long time. What's up?
I'm looking at another rune, okay? I'm looking at another rune. Ray Farkey.
Oh.
Lethal Tempo Darius. Okay?
Right. So, I can let me explain.
This is the best part of like talking to a color caster, like just bringing up the weirdest thing, and now you have to answer it. Dice though will have to answer this hook from Nema. Ignite goes down, and first blood to the CGA support. And
it's the worst timing. Not only does he lose this wave out as well, late invade means that Kasin's immediately opting towards, looks like it's going to be linear jungle for these teams, unless Kasin has some crazy pathing to disable Flawless from taking this red buff. And we see Nap actually moving towards red side as well to guard it out, because he sees Rayfaki. A lot of things are happening at once here. But
well, Rayfaki's just sort of like stood in with her, deciding, Nap, you can't hit this wave. Usually we see the range top laners bullying out the melee ones.
3 melee creeps, though. This is a huge XP loss for Nap, and this is going to really set Rayfaki up for the first 3 levels, because he gets to play through, even create a wave shove into him if he's able to find that with a little bit of a push in the first 2 waves. And that means that Nap might be locked into a slow pushing lane, XP down.
And we see Kasin here opting to just walk through mid lane towards the top side of his jungle. Doesn't want Flawless to be able to go into there to be able to lock out the top side for Burning Core and prevent Nat from getting any help. So it's a bit of a slower paced path, but it does offer a bit more safety to your lanes.
Flawless's pathing here is kind of scuffed. It's not his fault. This invade was fantastically handled by Kasin, and we're going to see Flawless now try and immediately respond for a mid-game gank. And look at Kaito's positioning.
Oh, he's got the Yomus though, so he's able to run pretty quickly away. Dice not quite able to get in range as the Sleepy Trouble Bubble is thrown down. A little bit of damage as well, and kind of gets out of there.
But this is so ideal for Kasin here. He does this very extreme pathing where he takes the red buff, he goes towards and soft clears Race when he's down on the boss side looking for a pick.
Yeah, heal burnt by Yuhi. Flash is still available for both of the Burning Core bot laners. Now we're just waiting on that hook cooldown. Flash is forward for the auto, actually. Fujimoto gets hooked whilst he's under the tower, and Hybrid grabs the second kill of the game for CGA.
Yeah, and Fuji burns double summoners there to try and live, as well as Yuhi burning the heal. So we see an exchange here, but ultimately net positive for CJ, as well as picking up a kill. And wow, Kasin has taken absolute control of this early game. This late invade combined with a very, very extreme clear path has meant that red to Raves, to use his own Raves, he clears through his bot side to ensure he gets those doubles and then goes straight for the bot lane gank. And we're going to see it here. You see that we talked about it. Yuhi has to shove in these waves to make sure she has access to all the creeps. And this trading here really getting punished. We see even trading across the world, but Kasin, they didn't know where his pathing was going to be, and just gets run down here.
I love this from them, and knows that if he just get that first auto off, that even if Fujimoto flashes away, still going to be rooted, and then the hook is oh so easy. And this is exactly what we were talking about in the pre-game. We thought on the Graves that Kasin would be a little bit more passive, but emphatically not. That late invade, like you already mentioned, then getting some ganks down early as well, has put this Graves to a point where he's a lot further ahead than he should be at this point in the game.
And Flawless didn't really have a response. So whilst all of this was going along bot side, Flawless didn't path towards his top side to create this linear jungle clear, because he knew Wraiths were being taken. In turns, Kasin gets a really, really late red buff and actually ends up triple camping Flawless. So CS, whilst it's slightly skewed to Flawless, Kasin has by and large won this first 5 minutes.
And that's what we needed to see from CGA, right? We know that Burning Core can be very, very strong, very, very impactful once we get into the later stages of the game. And CGA, a team that historically has had pretty weak early games, but definitely not the case this time around. A couple of kills, 1,000 gold in their back pockets to boot as another hook connects onto Fujimoto. Still no summoners on this Tahm Kenshin. He's taken a whole heck of damage.
Trying to force as much damage as possible, because you see here Kasin is trying to path towards this, either opting into an invade to try and burn out Flawless a little bit, or look towards Dragon as his wave gets shoved in, and they opt for this instead here. Fantastic early pickup as well, because it's Infernal Drake. Infernal Drake's fairly easy to take. They're just going to walk under. He can take this pretty freely with his wave shove. I mean, it's first Drake for CGA, and yeah, I mean, we talked about the early game. You've mentioned it already, but fantastic coming in from Kasin. He's really, really well set up for the first 15-20 minutes of the game, and you can see from his XP now, very, very close to 6 before his camps even spawn again for second camp clear.
Yeah, the coin as it stands currently showing heads. And we'll have to see if Kassin is able to translate this early advantage into a lead a little bit later on into the game. We haven't really talked about this mid lane matchup in isolation so much. Dice just wants to farm it out on this Rise. As Rayfaki going for an all-in here onto Nap, stacking up that passive, but won't commit to a dive under the tower. Has actually been doing fairly well in this game. Usually you expect range matchups to go heavily in one side's favor as Yuhi is being caught out, but here comes Flawless to back up the play. Kassin is here as well on this Graves. Fujimoto once again going to be the target and once again just going to be shot down. Collateral damage as Kassin turns 1 kill into 3 with a double.
And they barely live there on that dive. Fantastic. Well done. They pick up a 1 plate as well. They get to take away all this XP from Yuhi. And that was all off the back of Fujimoto just playing a little bit too aggro. I mean, he knew that his jungler was coming. They just didn't expect this counter gank coming in. And we can see actually Graves and Hecarim fairly, playing it very safe here, but they're both walking towards. As soon as this gets committed, both teams commit. But Hybrid having the summon advantage is really important here. Has the flash, gets to flash out that Hecarim combo, and Fuji getting picked up by here. Kassin flashes forward, gets the XP to hit 6, uses the level up to get the ultimate, picks off the 2nd kill, and then a really clean dive coming from Nema to just really understand his HP pool, and they get the triple. And CJ continuing the early game spree here, all of the back of Kassin's early invade. You'd love to see it. This is,
do you know what,
fantastic play.
LJL has a few champions and a few players where you just have to permaban it. Maybe we're getting into that point with Kassin's Graves, because he's only played it a couple times, but both times it has looked damn good. And Burning Core, we knew that their bot lane was going to be a bit weak-sided. We knew that they weren't going to be able to find these advantages so much. But the thing that is almost perplexing me is that the top side that we thought was going to be heavily in their favor hasn't really turned out that way.
And it's because they've been unable to play towards it. A combination of unique draft angles, so the...
Oh no, not another one. Another hook comes through from Nema as Yuhi is being focused down, but they're switching the targets over to Fujimoto. Red and white means don't fight. And it's another flash force, another hook landing. Nema is rolling back the years to 2021 summer, and it is looking beautiful.
And whilst that looked like a really clean 2v2, whilst that looked like it was a clean 2v2 coming up from CGA, they find a fantastic little mini engage there, and we combine that with level 6s across the board for both Hybrid and Nema there, and this fantastic Moonlight Vigil coming in for the huge amount of stacks there to just a massive amount of damage. Really, really well played, and I think Kassin really only getting a participation trophy on that single assist through the smoke screen. Flawless is trying to pick up Hybrid here.
This is very, very aggressive. The knockout comes through the root from the Gravitum as Flawless has got nowhere to go, buddy. This is looking hardly flawless as you're going to be falling down in just a moment's time. Yuhi and Fujimoto arrive, as does Dice, but this is still a 3v3, and it goes in Kassin's favor because of course it does. Fujimoto going too far forward once again, and Burning Core are looking like a burning corpse. They are falling apart. Yuhi trying to fight back with these autos will take out Kassin, but that's going to be the only kill they do get.
Yeah, fantastic response from Yuhi there just to pick off a single kill, but ultimately CGA are playing so clean. Thankfully Kassin passed towards Flawless even through this aggressive play because they expect that response from Dice. Dice ulties downwards to get the, and you're going to see it here. So initially we get to see Flawless over aggressing here, and this is probably off the back of this wave shove in mid lane. He knows that Rise is going to be coming down. They're already talking about it, and through this onslaught of shadows here, he really thinks he can get that kill, but Nema immediate response off the back of the ulti, timing it perfectly to disrupt him out of his follow-up combo, meaning they get to pick up the initial kill. Then in comes the round warp, and immediately blown up by Kassin. It's not even close. The amount of gold lead this champion has means he absolutely blows targets up, plays super aggressively here to pick up Fujimoto, but you can see CJ and Hybrid and Nema really unable to respond through this over aggression, and Yuhi really doing the correct choice and just picking up a single kill. But look at that Eclipse on the board, 2 mythics even for CGA so far, and Burning Core are playing kind of catch up at the moment. They're already 4k deficit in a 10-minute game, which is a huge lead for this team.
J-Real, what are your thoughts now, buddy?
CGA victory. I'm seeing it. The prophecy. through my miraculous
it's
game
looking
knowledge,
good,
I
man.
know that CGA will win this game.
I mean, it's looking good for them. We have seen this team throw in the past, so
I don't know what you're talking about.
my confidence isn't as high as it would be if maybe someone like DFM had a lead like this, or even Burning Core had a lead like this. So there's still the possibility of a throw, and Burning Core definitely a team that can catch it. We're not been seeing that from them so far this game, though. Flawless has honestly looked off the pace and not really been linking up with Dice at all either. And this means that Kassin, he takes that top herald, comes back bot, he gets this Drake as well. CJ are getting everything that they want.
And off the back of what you're saying, CJ, their real big losses have been when Hybrid has found a lead, but the rest of the team has failed to do so. Where I would say, large and ahead, this whole team is looking net neutral with Hybrid and Kassin taking complete control of this game. This is a fantastic situation for both of your main carries, your main DPS points to be in. And I think it's very, very difficult for you to picture them throwing off of that, because look at the setup, the follow-up that they have. So we're going to be eyes on how Nap and Nema can really continue to push this very, very fed duo ahead in mid game.
It's about transitioning it. It's about moving them around the map and getting more things down. Still a minute and a half until the turret plates off, so if Hybrid picks up a couple more of those, I'm sure he's not going to be complaining. But looking at Burning Core now, how do they get back into this game? How do they answer this? Because they're not out of it. 4,500 gold at 13 minutes to be in a deficit to is a lot, and it feels bad. But they're 6-2 for a reason. This is a good team, and they have often found angles to play out fights where they really shouldn't.
And this has been different players doing different miracle runs. Flawless, I think, if we shout out to the Yasuo Diana game I got to call, some miraculously found fights really enabled this player to find fights where they really shouldn't have, and that was through ultimately entirely off the back of Flawless. And now he's on this Hecarim, and Onslaught of Shadows is such a fantastic team fighting tool. And then when you can combine that with Rise Zeri, this really strong duo in terms of pure damage, especially, obviously it depends on where Dice is opting into his build path, because they've fallen into deficit. The tank build looks more and more comfortable, but really I think they're looking for damage at the moment. And I don't know how Ray Farkey is going to join these fights against, you know, Zoe Bubble. They have a lot of disengage coming up from Hybrid depending on guns. Nema, there are so many different disengage calls from his CGA, so it's really about enabling Ray Farkey to get into these side lanes and play as aggro as he can, whilst then looking for these 4v4 skirmishes. But look at Hybrid, the correct gun. You know, you go into the melee range, you just get a ridiculous amount of auto attacks, and he picks off 3 more plates just before these plates despawn. And as these teams are moving around the map, quick shout out to Nemo, as maybe a dive's coming into the top side.
Yeah, Fujimoto does have the flash. Both sums available for both members of the Burning Core bot lane, but they are so far behind in terms of power that they can just be forced away. Kaito, a little bit of cheat towards the top side as well, but again, more gold for Hybrid means more items for Hybrid, means a bigger chance of CGA getting what would be a pretty impressive upset victory.
Yeah, indeed. Flawless and the rest of Burning Core actually able to rotate up to top lane fairly quickly, but Nema has done a fantastic job of just reducing Burning Core's vision so much. Really aggressive pings coming from the entire side of CGA, combined with the repeated red trinkets, means that this team is swallowing all the vision on whatever side they're playing towards. They did on bot side, which led to those successful early skirmishes, and they've done it again on top side to pick up this this top side tier 1, and now their eyes are only really looking in one place, and it's this mid lane tier 1 now. Can they unlock the final bit of easy standing gold on the map, and then maybe this turret can in turn set them up for their next Drake? And yeah, excited to see how Ocean Drake and Ocean Soul could potentially affect this match, because this could be a big turnaround point for Burning Core. If they're able to pick up this next Drake, or maybe find a successful fight point, then Ocean Drake does a fantastic job of minimalizing some of the fighting points for CGA.
But it's going to be a long time for them to get there, and it's not only going to require good play from Burning Core. I think, given the uphill battle that they're in, it also requires a little bit of misplaying from CGA, and we haven't seen that from them this game. It's been clean, it's been controlled, it's been disciplined. They've played towards their win conditions, and they've neutralized Burning Core very, very effectively. Now, a minute to go until that Drake. CGA posted up in the mid lane here. Nema and Hybrid just clearing these waves as much as they can. The difference between the power level of the AD carries at this point in time is humongous. Just that Trinity Force for you. 2 items on Hybrid, and he's got the Zerka Greaves as well. Burning Core, I feel like they need to find a pick before this Drake. Otherwise, they just can't take the fight around it.
And it's all going to be off the back of Flawless. This is the real... I mean, apart from Fujimoto maybe finding a miracle knockup, it's really going to be Flawless going, okay, I'm the decider for this fight. Who are we going to look for first? And I think eyes are really only on one target. It's very, very difficult to pick off. As well, they're looking for it here.
They're looking for Nema, but that's a 2-person knockout there with a depth charge. Double flash over the wall from Dyson and Rayfaki, meaning they're not in the fight, and Flawless gets focused down right at the start. It's a kill on the side for Kaito as Fujimoto is taken out as well. And yeah, your solo laners are here, but they can't carry 2v5. A clean ace for CGA as Nema doesn't even drop, and they're going to grab the Drake as well.
Domination coming from Burning Core there, from CGA there. Every piece that Burning Core set up was split apart by really appropriate response from CGA. Saw a little bit of pre-aggression onto Nema here, and you see it here. They walk in to try and get some initial, to choke out this vision that they've been doing so far this game oh so well. And you see Burning Core immediate response to that. They want to get the Darius on 5 stacks as quickly as possible to fight, but Nep knows this. Nap immediately flashes in with the ulti to force Burning Core out, and then at the same time the main carry on your team is caught in a 1v1 versus Kaito and gets bubbled, and he's put to sleep, and then he's put to sleep again by Kaito. Fantastic pick off there, and then it's just clean up from that point. CJ having a fantastic Kassin doing his role perfectly there. He's real big cleanup. He's come in with 2 items now. He's on the Black Cleaver as well, so he understands his role perfectly. He's going to be hitting frontline, and fantastic for CJ. They pick up the 3rd Drake, which sets him up for Soul Point, as well as they also pick up this mid lane tier 1.
And do you know what, Oak? I feel like there may have been a couple people questioning why this is our match of the week. What we had Sengoku versus DFM. Surely that's a big hype matchup, 1st versus 2nd. This is why this is our match of the week, because not only is this game so important for both these teams, we knew it had the potential to be a little bit crazy. I don't think either of us expected CGA to come out swinging the way that they have done, especially against one of these top teams like Burning Core. We thought that their current 4-game win streak may have been a result of strength of schedule, but honestly, CGA just looking like a good team right now.
Yeah, and you set up perfectly in draft, right? We said how early game orientated CGA are, and they have this fantastic carry in the bot side in Hybrid, who has had phenomenal performance this split. Just amazing player coming in. I mean, I think he's top 40 KR. I don't know if you've heard.
I've heard he's top 40 KR. That's pretty impressive.
Top 40 on the ladder in Korea. No big deal.
Burning Core actually making an aggressive play here on Tanap, who throws out the slicing Maelstrom and will get taken out. 2nd kill of the game for Burning Core, so not going to be a perfect game for CGA, with that tower going to be taken in the mid lane actually, and yeah, you get a kill, but it's onto the cannon, probably not the priority target, and you lose 2 structures in trade.
I was thinking, how is Shelly spawned? I thought Baron was up by now, but no, it's 19 minutes in the game. This is how early, and they've unlocked this inhibitor here. Now, stark warning here. They may decide to not opt into the... Oh my god, the damage.
That's just not reasonable. When you're getting crit for 600 damage at 20 minutes by an AD carry, I think the game is not going in your favor. Taking early inhibs is usually not the best call because it can give people XP, and Fujimoto, no, buddy.
Oh my god.
Oh,
and
dear.
yeah, as you said, it looks like they're just going to opt into single inhib and top side. Now they're going to rotate towards, they very smart here initially coming out. They opt into, instead of taking this mid lane inhibitor, they move towards top side as soon as this wave comes in to unlock that 2nd turret. The big thing this double inhib is going to unlock is the opportunity for that Baron. Burning Core have some wave clear, but because of the build paths from both of these players, damage isn't a huge factor for them at the moment. So it's going to take them quite a bit to shove up both of these topside waves as soon as they become these inhibitor waves. So they're trying to catch up now. You can see them immediately pushing up, trying to get onto these waves, because they know that if they aren't able to respond quickly to a Baron, that Baron gets taken. That leads to bot side tier 1, and look at the gold disparity.
Oh, no.
5k leading on Hybrid. That's half of their total gold lead is just in the AD carry's pocket at the moment.
I'm not happy looking at that.
That's,
just looking upset. Oak, what was the shortest game this split? Because I feel like this may end up being a contender Baron now on board, and when you got 3 items on your AD carry, you can kind of just do it. And Burning Core don't really have a look in. There aren't words like to describe how this game is going.
It's honestly incredible to see CJ pick stuff up so much, and Flawless is so
Flawless.
caught out.
Oh, buddy, you don't want to be there.
What?
Oh, Fujimoto.
Is the bubble
Also
available?
on the wrong side of things.
Right.
Kaito electing not to throw out the bubble. CJ just going to start up this Baron instead. And something that has really impressed me has been Hybrid's gun rotations. Every single time they seem to, they want to take a tower, or they want to go for a fight, or they want to start a Baron. They seem to have the perfect guns, and that is such an important part of Aphelios that people really don't see. If people are grouping up and you've got Infernum Gravitum, the fight's going to go a hell of a lot better for you. If you're trying to take down the Baron, red and white, easy.
And you know what I think that comes up? It's not even his manipulation of ammo. I think they're just picking the right points for Hybrid to fight successfully. I think they see what ammo he's going to be on as well and go, okay, well, I know we need to fight for this situation, and the team plays around that. As you mentioned, it's been fantastic to see, and I think, yeah, depth of Aphelios, man. This champion's got some stuff. 200 years of design going into that champion, so unsurprising to see a lot of skill gap coming into it. Final Drake getting started now by CJ. Will Burning Core have a response?
Probably not. They're going to go for it regardless, though. Never fights. It's actually a Drake steal, no soul going over, but the fight still is not yours to take. Yuhi trying to kite it on the backside as Dice pops himself over the wall. Nema chasing with the Spider-Man hook, and meanwhile, we're having TPs into the base from Nap. CGA want to end this game as soon as possible. Bye-bye, Dice. You are getting rolled. As Kato picks up that kill. It's just base interrupts now for the rest of CGA, as other members running into the base to pick up the win.
You saw what Burning Core were going for there, bring the team in to enable Flawless to look for the steal, but they just weren't in position, get picked off, and because of this double inhibitor, they look for the easy win through mid side. They pick off the Nexus turrets and they end the game in a very, very quick pace of 23 minutes. Incredible gameplay coming from CGA. That is... I'm a little bit steamy right now.
That was fastest game of the split, by the way. J-Reel's just confirmed in chat that DFM V3 was 23-24, so...
Oh my god. Disgusting. And so, I mean... There's so many things to talk about, and we'll talk about them in game summary, but my god, did Kassin look good that game. Off the back of a single early game invade. It's like he opened the book and all of his plays were like lined out in front of him. Like, we do that, then we do that, then we do that.
Yeah, don't neglect the level 1 prep, guys. It's very, very important. We are going to talk more about that game in a couple minutes, I believe. Don't go anywhere.
Well, I do apologise for my previous thoughts on Burning Core. I guess they can't stand the heat, and therefore had to leave the kitchen. And shout out to the seagulls of nature, which I just had to bring up. I talked about it. I talked about the aggression. I said it for the Hawks. Well, CJ have brought it. They came through. They swooped in and they stole the chips right out of Burning Core's hands. And to be fair,
This analogy.
respect to them. Respect to them indeed. I'm gonna hand over to Middle Court, who is just buzzing to talk about the CJ team.
Oh man, do you know what? There's sometimes where you just watch a League of Legends game and it just pans out in exactly the way that you want it to. And I'm not going to apologize for my bias. I have stuck through CGA ever since I came into the LGLOU. Summer looked bad. It started off okay, and then towards the end of the split, everything just sort of fell apart. This was for all the CGA fans that kept the faith, that stuck with them, and kept believing. Honestly, Kassin looked like the best jungler in the league this game. He was everywhere. When Flawless tried to go for that play on bot side with the Hecarim where they thought they had the 3v2, Kassin was right there with him. We saw him making these aggressive invades into Flawless's jungle, not necessarily just trying to fight him, but just warding it out, meaning that this Hecarim has no presence in the early game. And I mean, Hybrid, the play speaks for itself, honestly.
You know, it does. And we talked a little bit about Kassin in the pre-game. We talked about hot and cold. Clearly, he left the Katy Perry track in the car. Wasn't playing it this time around. He was on it. So I respect that a lot. He just kept the pace. He kept the tempo. He kept getting it done. And we talked about this bot lane. We talked about top lane maybe being a bit of a problem, bleeding a little bit too much. But DJ just found consistent wins in the bot lane through Hybrid. And Oak, well, I know you don't really play bot lane, but come on. How are you? This is a solo queue, right? I feel like this is the solo queue aspect for you. You're playing your game. You're in your solo lane. Your bot lane is just inting this Aphelios, and it's just, yeah.
I think it just comes off the back of how far put aside Flawless wasn't early. So I think, because I have to give more shout outs to Kassin, because this is really the enabler for this bot side pressure was that Kassin does this really unique pathing of red wraiths, then enemy red, enemy wraiths, does his own wraiths, does blue, right in time for the spot shoving on bot side, because he knew what this bot side was going to be playing for. He knew that Yuhi was going to be this area. It has to see us properly. It has to shove in, and immediately. They have he has the perfect pathing in mind and punishes it perfectly. And then in the mean side, so this early invade, actually, remember, it caught out Dice. And that put his lane in the back foot. He wasn't able to play aggro at all, in a lane that he already isn't meant to be playing for lead-in, which means that Rayfarki is the only player they can...
And this is why I kind of
Flawless isn't to be seen.
This is why I kind of want to give props to CJ, but also go a little bit on Burning Core. You drafted yourself 2 lanes that didn't end up winning naturally, which I think is a mistake versus CGA. This game was amazing, but it doesn't change the fact that I think Dice is a better player than Kaito in a lot of situations, and Rayfarki has been on this upswing so far in 2022. And we didn't really see them exerting too much pressure. Obviously, you've got to give props to Kaito and Nap for that. But if they're able to exert a bit more pressure, then that pulls Kassin away from bot side. It means that Flawless has a bit of a better time in the jungle as well. And CJ can't keep indexing on the bot side of the map into their win condition.
Yeah, and I think we need to talk about one key component, and maybe someone needs to get on the blower and call up Tiger. He needs to make a remix of this song, because it wasn't Raxi, it was Hook City for Nema. It was just absolutely huge from the Nautilus, just getting them every single time. There was one fight where it was like, oh, he can't keep doing this, and then he got a second hook in that fight as well. So he was just making the plays happen, and big shout out to him as well, because obviously Hybrid, I feel like, gets a lot of the glory. The cat is just causing problems on the stream, but Hybrid gets a lot of the glory, but I will say that I think that Nema really set up well for this game.
Yeah. Nema has not had a good spring so far. And I think that's a fair comment. I think he would probably say that about himself. He's not sort of got to that level that he had in summer. And we said it on the cast, he was sort of rolling back the years a little bit. Yeah, it's only, 9 months or something? But this was the Nema that I remember. This is the Nema that I was so excited to see play on this CGA roster, and he's incorporated that that aggression that Hybrid likes to play with into his own game. I didn't think that we'd be seeing 2v2 kills in this bot lane, and yeah, we had a lot of help from Kassin, but those guys were doing it themselves as well.
Absolutely, and it wasn't just that aggression through Hybrid as well. It's aggression through Kassin. I think the dragon fight, the third dragon, is key because Nema did a fantastic job of just swallowing vision that game. And it was, I don't know who's calling that. Obviously, it's a team effort, especially with some of the pigs that are being placed down. They were repeatedly setting up vision before objectives, which is just key. You expect it at this level, but they were doing it oh so well. But even through Drake, through knowing where the members of Burning Core were going to be, he was still pathing in because he's like, well, it's fine. Even if a pig point is found onto me, my team is already in position to follow up from that. We have the lead, and they don't play safe. They play for HP trades. They play for to use their resources, their HP bars, their ultimates. They use these resources well to continue to push their lead, and it was fantastically shown around that dragon.
A huge win there for CGA, and they will actually, and I didn't talk about this before, I talked about Burning Core winning and taking second on their own, but now CGA have actually got second place joint with Burning Core and Sengoku, which really is not what I feel like we were expecting at the start of this season, but you know what? That's how the cookie has crumbled. And talking about crumbled, let's talk about the earliest game of the day. DFM once again picking up another win against Sengoku, who, to be fair, have looked pretty good all season, but very shaky against some of these top teams.
It's the DFM diff, right? We talk about how good some of these teams are looking, but DFM just play on another level, and I think that's really what undid Sengoku today.
Indeed, and obviously DFM, I feel like there's not really much that we have to talk about with them. They're just winning, they're winning. Right now, very unstoppable. All they do is win, is what DJ Keller would say. And
no matter what.
And Sengoku, how do you feel about this team? You know, do you feel like they're kind of still finding themselves a bit, or do you just see them as maybe like a second place team?
It's more like they have a unique set of strengths and weaknesses. I've developed as a really, really big fan of Sengoku, but unfortunately they still have their holes playoffs, right? It's coming up. They can patch some of these mistakes they made, especially through some draft things that they do sometimes that can really hurt them. There's a lot to talk about with this team. I think hopefully they'll be able to make their playoffs run look a little bit cleaner. I'm looking towards that point as maybe they're turning around for some of the mistakes they've made in the season. Yeah,
unique set of skills and but the win not taken. As we can also reference this one to the second game of the day, SoftBank Hawks once again not picking up a win, but admittedly against quite a good side in Rascal Jesters.
Yeah, quite a good side. It didn't give me a lot of hope for the Hawks, though. I think one of the games that we're going to talk about just after this, we saw some bright spots. Didn't really see that this time around. And when you have such a low kill game that goes for as long as it did, and you're on the receiving end of that, that is telling me that you don't know how to make aggressive plays. You don't know how to make proactive plays. Which is a problem that you can probably lay at a lot of teams in the LJL right now, but it has to be a starting point for the Hawks.
And if we just look at, like, nature, I don't know, get some David Attenborough angles in here. Like, Hawks, they come from the top, they swoop down, they like to grab their prey. I feel like they need to just seagull it up a bit more, you know? Just come through with the aggression. Like, come through with some aggressive flapping, you know? Like, come in with the big moments, you know? Like, I feel like they need to live up to the standard a bit, you know? They need to move in for it. That's what I want to see from them. And, what's your take on the Hawks?
I'm just waiting for Blank's gonna kick in at some point, right? Like Jungle's gonna at some point his brain's gonna activate and SoftBanks will become the team that we envisioned at the start of the split. I still think it's coming. I have faith. It's coming, guys. I'm sure it's happening any moment now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, hopefully his name doesn't represent their win column, because right now the wins are pretty blank. And moving on to game number 3, Axes versus that was a little bit harsh. Axes taking on the side of V3. Now V3, well, I'm not gonna hate on them too much either. But Axis definitely finding a bit of success, having some good moments, and actually proving that, you know what, they're not just going to be a team that picks up 2 wins at the start of the tournament.
Yeah, and it's not just cheese. Like, Akshan top is A little bit spicier, a bit more meta adjacent is probably the correct way to talk about that pick, but it's still something standard, and they look good, right? Obviously against the V3 side that have struggled to really find angles to play through. But once again, I've been impressed with Sanctuary. He's been a real standout player on this roster for me. And Toltu subbing in for his first game of the split. Kind of want to see a couple more from him.
Very impressed with their first performance as well. And I will say, like, V3 I feel sad for, because I actually think that V3 are getting better. I think they are improving. They're just not finding the last little bit needed. And I actually think that, come into the rest of the season, maybe they do find a little bit more. We talked about identity. I'm not sure if Oak has too much to say about this, but obviously, like, they kind of need to pick up their identity. They need to find what allows them to win. And I definitely think there is some hope in that top side.
No, I agree. And I think really the pathing for V3 is really finding carries that work best in their carry roles. So UGO has not cemented themselves as the best of the best right now in mid lane. And I think Dress Code obviously came into a roster that was otherwise all found through the V3 Academy. This is the only real replacement in the team. And again, hasn't found the pick that really enables these players to do it. And I don't know whether it's through drafting to really better facilitate their carries or through new picks coming in that they can really coin in as their own. We're seeing other picks come in for other players. So like, this is your champion. Burning Core have the Darius, right? And so stuff like that. I'm hoping and praying for this team because, yeah, as you mentioned, they're growing. Problem is other teams seem to be growing and some are growing at an even quicker pace.
And talking about quick pace, last game of the day, we have to bring it up. Fastest game of the split, 23:05 on the clock, taking the record by about 20 seconds. It's a hot marker, and I will say V3 will be pretty happy about this because they are no longer going to be on the receiving end of the fastest loss. But Burning Core, they just couldn't get warmed up.
No. It was, like you say, a cold start for them, and they never really got going in this game. It was a breakneck pace from CGA. I think that's the thing. They never gave Burning Core an opportunity to sit back, to assess the situation, to see what's going on, to formulate a game plan. Kassin just running at them constantly. Hybrid, Nema running at them constantly. And the solo lanes, you couldn't play around them because bot lane is just an open wound. And I like Yuhi. I think he has had a very, very good split. And I think to a certain extent, a lot of the negatives that happened for him this game weren't his fault a lot of the time. When you're getting ganked like 6 times in 10 minutes or something, there's not really much that you can do about that. But there is a question to me is, if this wasn't Yuhi, if this was maybe a stronger AD carry player, if this was a bot lane duo that had a bit more prestige, a bit of a stronger reputation historically in the LJL, does CGA even just try and does CGA even target it as hard as they do? I don't think that's the case.
It's I don't know. I'm still shocked that they won so quick. I'm not gonna lie. I'm still really surprised. Germany, final comments there, Oak, on the final game of the day.
I mean, just adding to what Middle said, I think, you talk about the punishing on the boss side, but I think it comes through draft. I think you mentioned how Yuhi maybe replaced by a better AD in a perfect world, right? Maybe they wouldn't punish it so much, but I think it comes off the Zeri. They punish the Zeri through this wave state that it kind of has to set itself up in the first 3 waves. And then on top of that, I think the response from every pick that came in order wasn't correctly responded by Burning Core, but was correctly responded by CGA. So the Darius is the other one, right? Kennen locked in to counter that pick, and that completely disenables the champions from its goals. And then you're left thinking, well, what do Burning Core actually have to play to? And it's not much.
Yeah, and I think we're going to go to our final part of the roundup. And this one I think will actually be easier than some of the other days. We're going to play Mess or Impress. I want you guys to tell me who was your mess of the day and who did impress. We start off with Middle Cop.
Mess, Flawless, Impress, Kassin. I don't think those two names need any further explanation.
Fair enough. And for you, Oak, it doesn't have to be players, it can be teams as well, if you would like.
I mean, Mess v3, even though it was the closest game, it looked very rough and really cements these guys. Success, Hybrid.
Right. Okay, well, there we go. You got your mess and impress for today. Let us know on Twitter who your mess or impress was today. Just post underneath the one where there was a lot of Tam Kenches. You know who loves Kench that much, but maybe we'll find out sometime shortly. Either way,
Unload
bird
the
was
toad.
the word of the day, seagull specifically, and that has been all from us. We are going to be back once again on Friday, so you don't have to wait too long, but for now, we're going to say goodbye.